I'm calling the public workshop of August 18th, 2014 to order. It is 9:02. And I'll give a brief introduction or summary of what we're going to be discussing today, and then we will go through each one of the agenda items, each one of the items that we're going to be discussing, proposed changes to the regulations. The regulation changes that we're talking about today are really concerned three different topics. One is to take what is now a sanitation violation that requires a $100 fine for the first offense, and then you're required to be brought before the board for a disciplinary hearing on the second offense. There's no time frames, there's no time limits, so 10 years ago you had a dirty nail file, you were cited. 10 years later you have a dirty nail file, instead of being cited, you have to appear before the board. We think it's unreasonable, staff certainly does, and I think the board members agree that hearing those type of cases is really not what's meant for the board to hear. So we'd be making a minor change to that. The second change concerns the wearing of white uniforms when the students take their practical exam. It's something that's carried over from probably the initial, I think it was 1989 or 1980s sometime, where they designated white uniforms. And we'll be talking about the proposed change to make it basically what they're going to wear as a licensee. I mean, they're 3 hours away from being a licensee or 2 hours away from being a licensee. It's the last test they take typically. So we're going to try and make it so that they don't have to have additional expense and additional anxiety in their life having to buy these white uniforms. The final change regards the reduction of re-examination fees from $110 to $75. And that was something that was approved by the board at a previous meeting, not just this last board meeting, which they approved all three of these, but at a previous meeting in order to be less of a burden on the students who do have to take it. Most students and reciprocity candidates, the retake is the law test, not the theory or the practical, but the law test, and we're trying to work with schools and with students to try and reduce the failure rate on that, make it more clear what we're looking for in the law, because we don't believe that the board should stand between a student and being able to work just because they're having difficulty passing a law test. So we're trying to work on that as well, and not only in changing this verbiage in the regulations, but also making changes in how we operate at our board office. So that's the highlight. We'll take these one by one, and anyone who wants to come to the microphone and speak on behalf or against the proposed changes, you're all welcome to do so. The first one is changes to Nevada Administrative Code section 644700, and 644700 is a section that deals with fines. How we fine if we find things that are not, how we fine if we find things that are not in keeping with sanitation standards or with posting standards or having an expired license. So the particular section would be subsection 2 of that, and it currently reads, a licensee who violates a provision of NEC 644.307 to 644.355, that's the section that includes the sanitation regulation, inclusive, will be fined not more than $100 for the first violation, and that's where it stops today. What we're asking to add, what we're going to ask the legislature to allow us to add is, or subsequent violations, unless in the judgment of the executive director such violations warrant a disciplinary hearing before the board. And the reason the wording is set that way is that we want, if someone gets a second sanitation violation, it's a minor violation, it'll be another $100 fine. We're going to ask them to clean it up. We're always looking to get compliance. We're not looking to fine people, we want just compliance. So in doing this, it gives us the latitude to not have to bring the second sanitation violation. Like I said, it could have been 10 years ago when they had their first violation. We're not required to bring that before the board unless the inspectors bringing the information to me say this is very dangerous for the public. We need to have this place, we need to get their attention. We need to bring them before the board. The board needs to implement more than a $100 fine. At that point, they can have up to a $2,000 fine per occurrence of what violation they have. So this is really trying to keep the board agenda clean and not have minor violations being brought before the board. So if anyone would like to speak on behalf or against that, the microphone is open. And also in Carson City, I know we have one gentleman sitting in the audience in Carson City. If you would like to speak, you're more than welcome to come up to the microphone. so that we can get any and all views either for or against this particular change. No one is speaking for or against it. My assumption is going to be that people are, if they're not speaking against it, then they would be for it. And we're actually going to request, because this does involve licensees, we're going to actually request some feedback when the inspectors go out to the salons. They're going to talk about this provision, and we're going to try and elicit feedback that way also. So, yes, come on up. If you can give your first and last name, and then you can speak.
Benita Williams with Euphoria Institute. I think it's phenomenal that you kind of hold on to some of that without having to appear before the board. It seems to be excessive for people to have to come up. I mean, for minor infractions, they should be able to correct it, get it done. And the timeline between identifying the timeline is also important, I think, because if it's open forever, I mean, what if you have someone that's on the board that is maybe a little excessive or aggressive? That could pose a problem financially, not only for the stylist, but also for the salon they work in, or the school, if that were to happen at a school as well. So I think it's phenomenal that it's being changed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak at the mic? If not, we'll move on to the second one. The second change is concerning NAC 644.053 subsection 8, and the proposed change for that is actually dealing with the white garments. And what the regulation in subsection 8 says today is, while taking an examination, each applicant must wear outer garments, including those that outer garments and footwear, including shoes, that are all white. No applicant will be required to wear a smock during the examination. And the way we want that to change to be read is that while taking an examination, each applicant must wear clean outer garments and adequate footwear, which is exactly the same wording that we use for licensees. So there's no difference in what a licensee wears practicing in a salon and what a student or a person testing, it could be a reciprocity candidate, someone who's testing has to do during the practical. So if they're taking the practical exam, they would basically wear the same thing that they've worn at school while they're doing their training, for the last year and a half to 2 years. So and we're trying to make that so that it's not a burden. One of the complaints that I hear from the students whenever I go to speak at the schools is that, why do we have to buy this white garment and white shoes? We have to buy it, we wear it for 2 hours, and then we throw it away. So it's really not, and there's no scientific reason, there's no procedural reason why we have to do that. It's just been on the books for a long time. And so what we want to do is change it so that the way that they're going to be practicing is the way that they would, and the way that they feel most comfortable is the way they've dressed when they go to school. So whether they're wearing the name of their school on a T-shirt in wearing that, if they're, I know that I don't think any school requires specific uniforms, but there's typically a dress code. You're going to wear, you have to be all in black, or you're going to have to be all in blue, or you have to be in, whatever color requirements that the schools have, that they would wear that. So this is just taking out the requirement to have white shoes and white garments, and that the interpretation of all that gets to be a little convoluted on test day and raises anxiety for students. So again, that's why we're changing it. We want to lessen the financial impact, as well as make the students feel more comfortable when they're testing. So if someone wants to speak on the change of that, more than welcome to come to the mic.
Benita Williams, Euphoria Institute. It is a hardship. We experience it every day at the campus. Students have we provide uniforms for the students. They are identified with the Euphoria logo. Shoes, the same thing. We don't provide shoes, but they have their choice of shoe wear as long as it meets the requirement by state board. I have to tell you, it is a challenge to have to help students find a white garment for 3 hours out of their program, or the finale of their program. I know that there was some concern the last time we talked about the uniform with the board, and they were concerned, or at least one of the members was concerned about students writing questions or answers or something on their uniform. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, they're doing a practical exam. I mean, I'm pretty sure the students aren't going to be looking down their shirts or on the back of their, shirts and trying to figure out how to put relaxer on the hair. At the end of the day, it does make a lot of sense to practice the way you want to perform, or perform the way you practice. It does make it much easier and more comfortable for them without giving them so many extras that they have to figure out. But yeah, I'm down for absolutely, speaking on behalf of all of the Euphorias, to have them wear their uniform, or at least, their clean outer garments. So.